Welcome to Sleepy Historian, where old tales whisper by candlelight and memories gently drift into dreams. Tonight, let us journey back to a time long asleep in history.
Tonight, we travel back in time, back to a world of flickering film reels and quiet inventions, to meet a woman who is both the most beautiful face on the silver screen and one of the most brilliant minds of her era. Her name was Hedy Lamarr. As you rest, let her story unfold gently, like the turning of old pages, from the cobbled streets of Vienna to the bright lights of Hollywood, and the silent hours where genius worked in shadows. Let your breath slow and drift with her, through a life of stardust and invention. Hedy was born in 1914 in Vienna, Austria. Her father was a banker and her mother was a former opera singer. From a young age, Hedy was interested in science and technology. She was particularly fascinated by radio and would spend hours listening to broadcasts from around the world. In 1930, Hedy's family moved to France and then to the United States. In Hollywood, Hedy became a star, appearing in more than 30 films. But she never lost her interest in science. In fact, she continued to work on her inventions throughout her life. One of her most famous roles was as the femme fatale in the film The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But behind the scenes, she was working on a very different kind of potion, a formula for world domination. In the evenings, after her father has gone to bed, Hedwig would sit with her mother by the piano. She would rest her small hand on the yellowed ivory keys and feel their coolness under her fingertips. Sometimes she would press them, making the notes ring out, surprised by the sound they made. Other times, she would listen to her mother's hands dancing on the keys, bringing stories to life. When her mother played, the room would come alive with music. The sound swirled around Hedy, lifting her to a world beyond the four walls of her room. It was a world of swirling lights and bold colors, of passionate dances and whispered secrets. As the notes faded away, Hedy would ask her mother about the places and people in the music, about the waltzes and tangos. Her mother would smile, her eyes sparkling with the music still. She would tell Hedy about faraway lands and the people who lived there, about their customs and their dreams. As Hedy grew older, her love for music grew too. She would spend hours listening to the radio, entranced by the voices and instruments. She collected sheet music, dreaming of the day when she could play the piano like her mother. But her mother's hands were different from hers. Hers were small, with fingers that were slender yet strong, like the stems of wild strawberries. Her mother's hands had taught her to express herself through music. And now Hedy wanted to do the same. One day, Hedy's mother fell ill and the doctor said that she needed to rest. "You must play for me," her mother told her one day, her voice weak. "Play the pieces we used to play together." So Hedy sat down at the piano and began to play. The music filled the room, chasing away the shadows of sickness. Her mother's face, pale with pain, relaxed a little. The music continued until her mother fell asleep. And when she woke up, the sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. "You played beautifully," her mother whispered, a faint smile touching her lips. "You have your father's gift for music." Hedy blushed, her heart swelling with a strange new feeling. She knew that she had found her calling in life. She would become a concert pianist, just like her mother had been. And she would travel the world, sharing her gift with everyone. In the afternoons, she curls up near the piano, paging through picture books, sometimes taking apart small toys just to see how they fit together again. Her mother smiles at her curiosity, but it is her father who sees something unusual in the way she thinks. He tells her, "You have two gifts, Hedy, beauty and your mind. Never let anyone convince you to choose only one. But the world she is born into will not always make it easy." By the time she is a teenager, Vienna is changing. The First World War has passed, leaving shadows in the city. The empire that once ruled much of Europe is gone, but in its place is a new hunger for modernity, for cinema, for bright lights that distract from the gray. Hedy walks past posters of silent films, women with dramatic eyes, men with heroic stares. She begins to imagine herself on the screen, not for the fame, not yet, but because she senses that acting is another way to study people, their movements, their voices, the small secrets they try to hide. One day she sneaks into a small neighborhood cinema. The film is grainy, flickering. She leans forward in the seat, completely still, as if afraid to break the spell. And in that dark room, with the scent of dust and film reel oil in the air, she begins to dream. It is a quiet dream, but it will take her far from Vienna, across oceans, into the brightest spotlights, and behind them into the deepest shadows. For now, she is still just Hedy, a girl with long dark hair, curious eyes, and a mind that refuses to sleep. A mind that won't be satisfied with the stories that are told to her, a mind that will find its own stories to tell. The train from Vienna moves slowly through the countryside. Rolling fields of wheat, villages with red-tiled roofs, steeples rising like quiet markers against the pale sky. Hedy sits by the window, her gloved hands folded in her lap. The hum of the carriage, the steady rhythm of the wheels almost lulls her to sleep. She is only in her late teens, but her beauty already draws glances. At first, she finds it strange that strangers' eyes linger on her full lips, on the swell of her chest, on the slender line of her arms. But soon she learns to carry it like a carefully folded scarf, neither flaunting it nor hiding it. Her first film roles come in Austria, small productions, but even the camera seems to pause for her, as though it recognizes there is more behind her gaze than the script requires, and then a role that will stir whispers, a film called Ecstasy. It is controversial for its time, a film about a young woman's awakening desire, a film that will mark her, and also, in ways she cannot yet see, trap her in a certain image. With the notoriety comes attention from a man named Friedrich Mandl. He is wealthy, he is an arms manufacturer. He is older, he is commanding and persistent. At first, Hedy mistakes his interest for admiration. Soon she sees the walls closing in. Mandl is not just possessive, he is controlling. He surrounds her with his world of banquets and military contracts and private meetings with powerful men. But Hedy has a spirit that will not be contained. Even as she moves through a world of shimmering surfaces and suffocating silences, even as she struggles to hold on to her own reflection, a wildness stirs within her, a determination to break free. She finds an ally in Trude, a friend from her acting days, a woman who understands the gilded cage of beauty, a woman who will become her accomplice in a daring plan. Meanwhile, Mandl, with his steely gaze and his web of influence, will stop at nothing to possess Hedy, to mold her into the image he desires. As the story unfolds, we see glimpses of a larger world, a Europe on the brink, a continent where shadows are lengthening and secrets hold dangerous power. She sits at long dining tables, crystal glasses catching the low light, the air heavy with the scent of cigars and polished wood. The men talk of weapons, of technology, of war that is coming again. Hedy listens quietly. She is not supposed to understand, and yet she does. The diagrams they pass across the table, the talk of signals and communications, it plants seeds in her mind that will one day grow, but Mandl's control tightens. He does not want her to act anymore. He wants her as a prize, a beautiful ornament on his arm. And so Hedy begins to plan. One night, in the dim light of their home, with the sound of distant traffic muffled by thick curtains, she gathers a few belongings, slips into a maid's uniform, and leaves. She boards a train to Paris, then a ship to London, her heart steady, her mind clear. And in London, by a stroke of fate, she meets a man who will open the door to an entirely new world. Louis B. Mayer, head of MGM Studios, a man always in search of the next star. He sees her at a party, dark eyes, flawless features, and offers her a contract in Hollywood. Hedy steps off the train in California with the Pacific air brushing her face. The smell of orange blossoms drifts in from distant groves. And in the glittering city of Los Angeles, she will become Hedy Lamarr. Her first films in America dazzle audiences. On screen, she is luminous, but camera drinks in her beauty. Magazines call her the most beautiful woman in the world. But beauty, for Hedy, is not enough. The studios see her as an image, but at night, in the quiet of her home, she spreads out papers on a desk, sketches designs, reads about engineering and applied science. The world sees her in gowns of silk and satin, but she carries in her mind the memory of those dinners in Vienna, the talk of radio signals, of secure communication, and she begins to think, what if there is a way to send messages that no enemy could intercept? Her days are filled with lights, scripts, and cameras, but her nights are filled with invention. Hollywood nights are rarely still, but in Hedy's small study, the world is hushed. A lamp pulls golden light onto the desk, leaving the rest of the room in gentle shadow. Outside, the faint hum of passing cars fades into silence. On the desk, papers. Pages of sketches, diagrams of waves, lines of numbers, notations in her neat hand. Beside them, a small mechanical piano roll, the kind used to play music automatically. To most, it's a charming antique. To Hedy, it's a key. She has been thinking about the war raging across the ocean, about the radio-controlled torpedoes the Allies have begun to use. They are powerful but vulnerable. Enemy forces can jam their signals simply by broadcasting on the same frequency. Hedy remembers those dinners years ago, the talk of signals, the delicate balance between sender and receiver. And she begins to imagine something different. What if the signal could change constantly, unpredictably, jumping from one frequency to another so quickly that no one could follow it? The idea is elegant, almost musical, like a piano roll guiding the notes in perfect order. Two devices could play the same sequence of frequencies, switching in harmony, remaining connected even as the world tries to interfere. Hedy picks up her pen and begins to sketch. A transmitter, she writes, must send a carrier wave, a sine wave of some kind, a frequency that will be our home base. Then a modulator to shift the frequency up or down, a whole range of frequencies within radio waves. And then an algorithm, a series of steps to select the frequencies, to switch the transmitter from one to the next. And suddenly it hits her, the answer, the frequencies. They should be unpredictable, random, but with a pattern only known to the receiver. A slight smile touches her lips. It's brilliant, but will it work? There's only one way to find out. With a deep breath, Hedy rises from her desk, leaving the lamp to illuminate the papers with the beginnings of what will become a report to the U.S. Patent Office. In her hand, a secret. In her heart, hope for a world where music and mathematics play in harmony. Hedy Lamarr was born in Austria in 1914, and by age 21, she was a famous film star, but fame didn't satisfy her. She wanted more, but an idea needs a partner. One evening in 1940, at a dinner party, she meets George Antheil, a composer, eccentric and brilliant in his own way. He is fascinated by her mind, and when she shares her vision, he sees it instantly. Music and engineering woven together. Music, with its endless variety of notes and rhythms, could provide the key to secret communication. Night after night, they work quietly. The world believes she is simply a film star, but in her home, she is an inventor. They tinker with designs, imagine miniature piano rolls inside communication devices, a secret dance of frequencies. In 1941, they file the patent, a secret communication system capable of protecting radio-guided torpedoes from interception. It is wartime, and the invention is offered to the U.S. Navy, But the Navy, in that era, cannot see past her image. They thank her, but do not use it. Instead, they tell her she can help the war effort by selling bonds, by being the beautiful face at fundraisers. And so she stands on stages, smiling under bright lights, while somewhere in a locked drawer, her patent gathers dust. She never complains. She knows ideas often wait for their time. And in the quiet, she keeps thinking. She keeps imagining. After the war, she moves to Hollywood, finds success, but also loneliness. She marries 3 times, has children, then divorces. Through it all, she keeps inventing, tinkering in her own time, always in the background. Finally, in 1958, someone notices her work. A journalist writes about the secret weapon and the Hollywood Madame, as they called her. Suddenly, she is a sensation. Interviewers line up, but she has no time for them. She is working on a new invention, this time lasers. For the next 2 decades, she develops new ideas, tries to patent them, but her name does not help her. People still see the famous face, not the genius mind, but she doesn't care. She knows good ideas always find a way. And in the quiet of her study, she keeps inventing, just like the music she loves. In 1976, her frequency hopping concept forms the foundation for a new wireless communication standard. Technology that would later enable Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and more. But recognition comes to her only in the late 1990s, long after she had retired from inventing. By then, her eyesight was failing and arthritis made it hard to write. But when she heard about the new technology, she smiled. Ideas, she said, have a way of coming back to you. The light in her study was switched off. The papers were stacked neatly. And in the stillness, Hedy Lamarr slept, not knowing her quiet invention would one day help connect the modern world. This is 1 minute. See you tomorrow. Time moves quietly. The golden age of Hollywood begins to dim. New faces fill the screens. New voices fill the radios. Hedy, once the star of crowded premieres, finds herself stepping away from the spotlight. The gowns, the cameras, the endless hours under hot studio lamps, they no longer call to her. She lives more privately now. The sound of her days is not applause, but the hush of pages turning, the murmur of the television in the background, the distant hum of traffic outside. Her beauty, once the subject of magazine covers, is something she no longer thinks about. She prefers the comfort of quiet mornings, a cup of coffee cooling slowly in her hands. A knock at the door, a visitor arriving, a friend from her past, someone who knew her when. He looks at her with a kind smile, a hint of sadness in his eyes. They talk about the old times, about the dreams they had, the hopes that once burned brightly within them. There's a comfortable silence between them, a shared nostalgia for a time gone by. And then he tells her about the world outside, about the changes, the challenges, the progress. He speaks of a new technology, wireless communication, devices that speak to each other without wires, without limits. As he talks, her eyes light up, a spark of interest igniting within her. She remembers her days in the lab, the countless hours spent experimenting, searching for a way to make a connection, to send a message without the interference of static and noise. She had almost succeeded then, but the war had come, the fear, the uncertainty, and she had abandoned her work, buried it deep inside her, along with her dreams. But now, hearing about this new technology, she feels a sense of excitement, a pull towards something she can't quite define. He shows her a device, a small, sleek gadget that fits into the palm of her hand. It looks like nothing she had seen before, so different from the bulky radios of her time. And then he asks her, "Can I help you?" A simple question, yet it carries the weight of their shared history, their hopes, their dreams. For a moment, she hesitates, torn between the past and the present. Finally, she nods, her eyes fixed on the device in his hands, on the potential that it holds, on the future that it represents. Her frequency hopping idea, once set aside and almost forgotten, is reborn in new technology. It spreads quietly, invisibly into millions of lives, touching the lives of people she will never meet, connecting them in ways she could have never imagined. And then the phone call comes. She is older now, her voice softer. On the line is a voice from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. They tell her she is to receive the Pioneer Award, recognition at last. She does not attend the ceremony, but she accepts the honor with a few simple words. The brains of people are more interesting than the looks, I think. In her later years, Hedy lives in Florida. She walks slowly in the garden, listens to the rustle of palm leaves in the breeze, and lets the sun warm her face. She spends time on the phone with her children, laughing at small stories, lingering over memories. On January 19th, 2000, Hedy Lamarr passes away quietly in her sleep. No crowds, no flashing lights, just the steady rhythm of a life closing gently. And yet her story does not end there. Every time a phone connects to Wi-Fi, every time a message travels through the invisible air, a small part of Hedy's mind is there, woven into the fabric of the world. The star and the scientist, the beauty and the mind. Two gifts carried in one life. As the night deepens, you might picture her as she once was, seated at a desk in a quiet Hollywood home, the lamplight soft on her face, her eyes focused on a sketch. Her thoughts already far ahead of her time, the papers rest in neat stacks. The room grows dim, and Hedy Lamarr fades gently into the dream she was always living. If you enjoyed this video, check out more on our channel. And for even more stories like this, subscribe to our newsletter. And so Hedy's journey comes to a quiet close. Her life, a bridge between glamour and genius, between the spotlight and the unseen brilliance of her mind. She left the world not only with images on a screen, but with an invisible gift woven into the way we connect each day. As you lie here, perhaps you feel the same truth she once knew, that the mind is a kind of beauty all its own. Now let the night take you. Rest in the stillness, and dream of ideas that might one day change the world.
Tonight's story comes to a close. If your eyes have gently shut, then I wish you a deep, peaceful sleep until we meet again in the next dream.